It's NutBallCop, and let's try to unpack a hard question. Um, why is never a simple question? How, when, what, where? Those are simple questions. Why gets complicated. What is the end goal here for them wanting to deconstruct America? Because they're deconstructing America at numerous levels right now. It's one of the reasons why we all feel a little overwhelmed, stressed, a lot of anxiety, angst, a lot of uncomfortableness, especially about trying to plan for the future. Um, if we go back to the quote unquote conservative revolution of 1978, which was the corporatist revolution, it was not conservative whatsoever. 1978 marked the beginning of the abandonment of capitalism and the rise of the gangster politic body. Um, the first thing they started to deconstruct was the banking system. The banking system wasn't this boring old business that's there, makes the people run it a decent peck of money, and we all move on with as little problems as we can uh, uh, figure out, preemptively and avoid. We threw that out the window. It took several stages involving both parties. Um, Deregulating the banks was just as much of a Reagan Bush era problem as it was a Clinton and um, W problem. Okay. They deconstructed the banks because they wanted to turn the banking system a casino, and they were the recipients of the revenues of the casino. Then they decided to turn housing into a casino. We're going to deconstruct that. That cost us $12 trillion. Numbers said by both Barney Franks on the left and Rand Paul on the right. Then they decided to consolidate media. First, it was AM radio stations. The old rule was you couldn't have overlapping broadcast audiences, so you can't control a market and brainwash, people over the airwaves. We don't want state or state adjacent TV and radio. They threw that out. We have it's so much consolidation in the radio space. Sinclair basically owns the local markets both for TV and radio. Now they've deconstructed in the last 10 years of Dear Leader Porn Star Humper, they've deconstructed Christianity, the American family, responsibility, the rule of law, the Constitution, the stock market. Private equity 25 years ago decided that they were going to take the stock market off the markets, privately control them, and reap the entire reward of the entire equities market, but direct it into their own pockets. So we're going to deconstruct the public stock exchanges, and we're going to replace that with private equity and private interest hedge funds and all that kind of stuff that the public, unless you're wealthy, you don't have access to. Disconnects you from the real economy. Okay. Then after 9/11, they deconstructed law enforcement. They wanted law enforcement to be a war machine on Main Street to deal with traffic incidents and homeless trespassing at a restaurant or whatever shit was going on that day. So they deconstructed law enforcement. Then they wrote a paper called Project 2025, where they said, whatever we haven't tried to tear down, burn down, and seize control of, now we're going to do it. Here it comes. You ready? They warned us. They put that paper almost 2 years before the election out. as a public PDF, and they told you step by step what they would be doing. Okay. What have they done just in the first year of this term? Literally deconstructed what immigration is. Now, immigration is a crime against Jesus Christ himself, and it must be dealt with violence and warfare. It's no longer a civil offense to overstay your visa. It's an act of war. It's an insurgency. It's an invasion. Okay. They hired people in the DOJ to construct the entire DOJ manual and start purposefully ignoring the courts. Don't be surprised when that attorney, she stands up in court and goes, "This job sucks. This case sucks. My life sucks. Why don't you just hold me in contempt so I can get some sleep for 24 hours?" Okay. Um, they are actively destroying, if not just deconstructing, destroying what it is to be a U.S. attorney in this country. You are simply a political Goomba who does what they're told. The DOJ hasn't worked like that in decades. Charging decisions are the U.S. attorney's decisions, not a political operative's decision. Not anymore. They told you flat out, we're going to stop listening to the courts. They did. They just released the National Defense Strategy Report. It's an annual report that says there is no problems on Earth anymore, except in the United States, South America, Caribbean, Greenland, and Canada. They want to take the $1 trillion budget, add $600 billion more to it, and invade North America and the Caribbean. So the military is no longer a defensive force in the event we go to war. They are a political tool used to take hostages in a nationalist uprising where they feel they have the right and the authority to make every decision for every American business, and whatever they say, not the statute, okay? Not the inspector general, not the district court judge at the federal level. These people aren't the ones you listen to. You listen only to Ross Vaught and Stephen Miller. The hands of the king. That's all you're supposed to be listening to. They're going to fire 50,000 employees, federal employees next week. Why? Because they need to deconstruct America itself, not just the jobs, not saving any money. If you fired every single fucking employee from the federal government today, you would save about 8% of the budget. Employment by the federal government isn't the reason for the debt. Neither is Social Security, neither is Medicare, neither is cancer for pediatric cancer research. Neither are vaccines. None of those things are the reason why we're in debt. We're in debt because we fight foreign wars and lose them. And while we're losing those wars, we give the wealthiest people and the wealthiest legal fictions the biggest tax breaks mankind has ever devised. That's why we're in debt. We book the revenue. Then they just simply don't pay it. And then the Treasury prints money up to cover the difference. And they've been doing that since Ronald Reagan in 1981. And again, 1981, the year we abandoned capitalism and went toward corporate socialism, where none of the decisions are figured out by a market. So it's not figured out by risk analysis. It's figured out by political operatives and people in Congress taking the bribe to write the law to make sure that whoever hired that lobbyist, that person who hired the lobbyist, they win. Because that's what the leftward orthodoxy is all about, making sure the money goes where it belongs and stays where it belongs. Okay. Why do you think you're the one paying for sports stadiums instead of the billionaires who own the sports team? It's about diverting money away from you. Okay. But why do they do it? Well, one of the things they're trying to as they scream family values, which we know is a lie. Okay. Kristi Noem has been fucking Corey Ledowski for 5 years. It's the biggest open secret in Washington, D.C. Nobody cares. They want to ban divorce, but Ken Paxton's wife is suing him for biblical divorce because they get to have a divorce if their marriage goes bad. Not you, though, because we need you to have poor little babies that we can exploit. Okay. Why do they want the deconstruction of America? Because they want to exploit your children. In every possible meaning of the word exploit. Okay. Yeah, we start with the obvious. Epstein files. Who did they go after? Who did the church's priests, who did they go after? Fucked up families without a father in the family, usually, a poor family, a dysfunctional family. Why? Because it's easier to make them the victim. And the predators know this. Okay. The more families that end up in poverty and on the edge of affordability, the edge of a decent quality of life, when their family unit starts to break down, it makes them more vulnerable. And they know it. Matt Gaetz, the Florida congressman who left so they wouldn't call him in on the ethics violation of him taking advantage of a poor, disadvantaged 17-year-old girl for sexual exploitation, if not rape of a minor. Okay. Who he targeted was exactly who they all target. You think they're going after some young girl when their dad is the one that always picks them up from gymnastics class or from karate class or from choir practice? And you got an involved dad standing around. You think they're going to go after that kid? No, they're going to move on to easier pastures. Deconstructing the American family is about victimizing your kids. Do you realize that? Catholic Church sex abuse. Look at most of those kids. Poor, working poor class families, broken homes, troubled kids, struggling teenagers. That's who they victimized. Okay, so when Jeff Bezos announces another huge layoff in between Amazon and UPS, it is now going to be, we're only into February now, the first couple of days of February. This is going to be the worst layoff year since the Great Recession. We already know that. Why? Because it destabilizes the American family. They can take economic advantage of you and your kids. They can take cultural and social advantage against you and your kids. And the fucking degenerates, who there are many, they're going to use the situation to fuck your kids. They know what they're doing. Why do we have student loans and not Pell Grants? Why did we deconstruct upper education in this country? So we put people in stressful, harmful conditions over long periods to beat them down over time. If we can't make you susceptible to becoming a victim, we'll get your kids instead. You're not going to pay them enough to afford an apartment, so they're living with mom and dad. That's part of the deconstruction. You don't pay them enough, so they buy groceries and buy necessities on their credit card or buy now, pay later. That's deconstruction. And it's intentional. It's purposeful. It's with a forethought. When you and your family fails, that's another set of people they can exploit. Young men throwing their lives away on Bitcoin, fucking mobile phone gambling, which already college athletes are being fucking arrested for shaving points. Who saw that coming? Why did we make college sports betting illegal? Because of the point shaving. They reintroduced it. Less than a fucking year goes by. You got 24 people under arrest for what? Point shaving. You think you're making a legitimate bet, young man? No, you are not. You're being taken to the cleaner and you are being victimized. You are being exploited by a tech bro with a gambling app. Okay. When they already can't find a job, they already can't get a good enough education, they already can't find an apartment, and you're going to fucking exploit them through a gambling app. Then you're going to sell them the alpha bro bullshit. Then you're going to sell them Bitcoin and crypto and all that nonsense. Why? Because you're deconstructing the middle class. The middle class is just a group to exploit. We financialized everything. There's no truth to any of their businesses left. It's all financial bullshit. It's all rigging a fucking spreadsheet, not producing a product or a service anymore. It's playing hedges and doing arbitrage against your own debt. Okay? It's not about the services you deliver anymore. Because the less jobs, the less education, the less opportunity, the less pursuit of happiness, the more crime, the more failures in society. That just sets them up for yet another win. These housing districts in Las Vegas, entire subdivisions, okay, with 1,500 homes in them. Not one's for sale, only for rent. Rent seeking. Why do they want to rent seek against everybody who's not as wealthy as they are? Because it's deconstruction. We are going to deconstruct the American family, seek rent from them every month until they fail. Then we move on to the next victim. The Catholic priests in Boston, went after their victims. They go after the class president in high school who was looking at, going to MIT, Yale, or Harvard. No, they did not. It's hard to exploit some kid that's being successful and knows where they want to go in life. That's why you need to remove opportunity so they become more and more exploitable. Like all these mantra moralist bullshit Christians, the American politicized Christian, what a set of fucking bullshit artists. Okay. Fuck every one of you. Okay. Because as you do these massive layoffs, whether it's the federal government under Trump, whether it's Bezos, whether it's the guy running UPS or the guy running Netflix or the guy running Cisco, when you don't have those jobs, they're going to revert to things you don't like. But that's why you're doing them. Okay. Back of envelope numbers. I'm not saying this is a hard statistics or anything, but I say back of envelope, especially in the retail industry, for every 10 women that are laid off, 2 are going to end up on OnlyFans or doing in calls. Oh my God, the sanctity of women. We need them married young so they can have babies and all our politicalized Christian shit. Here's a layoff notice. Now you don't have money to live. And neither does your neighbor because we laid him off too. And we laid the other neighbor off. She's out of a job too. Why? Because we need to suppress the American worker. We need to suppress the middle class. How do we do that? Deconstruct the entire American system. These layoffs that are coming down, by the way, You see one article that says, "Oh, it's because AI is gonna do their job." Don't be that gullible. The layoffs now in January, those are about one thing, cutting the cost so the stocks look better at the quarterly earning call at the end of March, okay? I know this for a fact. I know why I was laid off from a tech rift from a tech company, because they wanted to make the stock look as good as possible before the closeout date of the M&A, so the executives could get rich. Now, remember, the executive that took over for our company, he was already wealthy. He showed up in town. He went to one of the Tony enclaves and bought a, $7 million house for cash. But he had to make more money on the backs of 2,000 people that worked in the company because he needed some extra scratch because he didn't have enough. So what do? You deconstruct a functional company that's producing excellent products and services, so you make it look worth more than it really is, so you can get a bigger bonus check when the merger goes through. Okay. This shit at Amazon has nothing to do, the layoffs have nothing to do with AI. Zero to do with AI. They're about getting that cost off the book completely, or they're doing the lay them off and rehire them at the end of the whatever the labor law window is. I think it's like 6 months, and you just go ahead and rehire the role at half the price. When I'm already seeing posts about this on Reddit and LinkedIn, where like I was a P4 with a P5 bonus, so I kind of mid mid senior, just getting into the senior level of engineering. Um, Senior directors were senior fives, maybe sometimes sixes. Um, I'm I'm seeing reports that senior directors in product management and marketing management, which a year ago were $350,000 jobs, are now going for 125,000 bucks. Trust me, if you move to a city based on a $300,000 salary, 125,000 is not going to cut it. You're not sticking around Austin or New York City or the Cambridge Boston corridor, the valley here. You're not sticking around a high cost zip code if they're going to take more than half your shit out of your compensation package. But that's what's happening. Bonuses have disappeared. Okay. Merit increases have disappeared. Now they're just disappearing the jobs. I think just to scratch them so the bottom line looks better. That's the short term. Medium term, yeah, they're going to hire a couple of those people back, but that principal engineer slot they had 6 weeks ago, that's going to be rehired 6 months from now as a senior engineer position, 2 to 3 steps down. This way, when the real power players, each one of the companies only have a handful of people who really experience the true benefit of the stock. Okay. And it's that small group in every company. That's the only ones making money. And if that was naturally that what was happening, they were the ones making the money. Well, you throw your hands up, go, well, that's capitalism. But one, we haven't practiced capitalism since the 80s. It's been corporate socialism since Reagan. But the fact is that what's happening today is they're basically rigging their own money and telling us time and time and time and time and time and time again, it's coming out of your ass. Our benefit comes out of your ass. This is what the whole Trumpian era has given us. It's a zero sum game bullshit of dear leader porn star humper. If dear leader wins, somebody has to not just lose, they have to lose miserably. Like dear leader is incapable of taking a win. Incapable. He must go scorched earth on you. That's what's happening across the board. Name a policy. Oh, I was watching Matt Rudolph, Mr. Global again. Super recommend him. Guy's super smart, man. Knows his energy data really well. That's who I listen to the most now is people with the data. Um, every ship we send out in New Orleans with another load of natural gas to go sell overseas at a higher world spot price, a bigger profit for the energy companies, the higher natural gas gets in the United States and the higher your electric bill gets. Because your electric bill is definitely strongly correlated to availability of natural gas supplies. Okay. So every time we ship up, remember we took a little tiny break from shipping natural gas overseas. And I'm not saying for some people we should give them gas, like Germany, because they're in trouble with the Ukraine war and us shutting down the pipelines from Russia. Because Germany used to get all their fuel, or most of their fuel, from Russia. And Germany is an ethylene-based economy. So they need natural gas. It's the core of their economy. So should be given some of it in an emergency to other countries? Sure. But it's an open market right now. They can dump as much as they want out in the open market and leave us with nothing. And now the magatards, the true red hat rubes, are blaming the state they live in because they don't live in a dysfunctional shit show like, I don't know, Arkansas or fucking Mississippi. Fucking New Jersey has the highest natural gas prices. No, idiot. Everybody's got high natural gas prices because they're bought on a spot market. Doesn't matter where you are right now. Everybody's got high natural gas prices, regardless of the fact we have fracked the shit out of America. Because just like I told you in my old groovy libertarian blog, I told you where that natural gas was going to go. I said the majority of it's going to go to China for a higher profit to the people drilling. We used to outright ban the export of fuels unless there was an emergency. Now it's an open season to profit. They get the profits. Your natural gas bill for your hot water heater or your furnace, like mine, goes up. Oh, and if your local utility uses natural gas to generate electricity, your electricity goes way up. What I want to communicate today is none of this is happenstance. This just didn't happen out of the blue. This isn't how the tumbleweed tumbles or the dice rolls or the rock rolls downhill. None of that. Okay. Everything you're seeing right now is intentional. They know what they're doing and they know why they are doing it. All you had to do to finish off what Reagan and Lee Atwater started in 1978 was tell the American politicized Christian all they had to do was stop worshiping Jesus Christ and worship a property developer with a criminal background. That's all it took, and it worked. All he had to do was turn politics into a bad roast. You know, the roast with Don Rickles back in the day and Dean Martin and all those classic guys. A roast, but not funny. Turn the roast just into shitting on everybody, knowing you're causing people stress, knowing that you are fucking up systems, knowing that you're not solving shit. Is he making the energy policy better? No. No. In fact, I would love to sit in a room with 20 red hat fucking morons and ask them what policy has he been successful at? Because I know 15 out of 20 are gonna go, he fixed the southern border. He fixed the southern border in Portland, Oregon, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Fuck you. You shot a mom making a U-turn? That fixed the southern border? Fuck you. He's destroying medicine, healthcare, and medical research all at the same time. Intentionally so. Because you think the rich preparatory school has dropped their measles vaccine and their pertussis vaccine requirements? No, they have not. No, they have not. Do they take religious exceptions? Yes, you can take your religious exception and stick it up your ass. Because the prep school doesn't want to shut down like the public school had to do for 6 weeks last year because they had a chicken pox, pertussis, measles outbreak all at the same time. Okay? Because when their kids are in class, the parents don't have to pay them at the prep school, at the private prep school or the parochial school. Okay? So they're not shutting down the schools, but they're going to tell you, oh, don't vaccinate your kids. So when his sports team gets canceled or his theater course gets canceled or his event gets canceled or his school has to shut down for several weeks, that puts those kids behind, not my kids. My kids are on their feet and moving forward. That's the plan. That's the why to deconstruction. And I mean this very literally. I'm not meaning this colloquially. Like they used to do hand waving things like, oh, I need to, have a bigger yard so my kids have a place to play. No, I need to move further, further, further out in the suburbs because non-whites are starting to move into the close suburbs that are nearest the cities. That's how we got the extra white extra burbs. Everything they're doing, they know they're doing it. This is eyes wide open. This is not a mystery why they insist on doing these things. We're going to harm your family to protect my family. We're going to groupthink all these draconian measures, and we're going to target those measures at areas we know the people creating the conditions, they don't live in those areas where you're going to go enforce those conditions. Sure, ICE is in Watsonville and in Santa Barbara going after the wineries and Visalia in the fields and Salinas in the lettuce fields. They're not in Atherton. And I guarantee you about one out of every 3 yard worker, maid, or other service worker in Atherton doesn't have all their paperwork. But do you know who lives in Atherton? The tech bros who support Dear Leader Porn Star Humper. Get it? It's not that hard to figure out. And it's not a conspiracy theory. The outcomes are showing you, this is what we're driving at. This is what we want to do. These are the goals we're trying to achieve. Plus, they fucking wrote them down for you. They're on a national tour now. It started with the Haitians in Ohio. They're eating the cats and the dogs. They're eating all the pets. Total bullshit. Then it was the Somalis, because some of the Somalis, by the way, a lot of them U.S. citizens now. Second third generation families. Some of them got caught up in a community funding scheme with federal grant dollars. No doubt crimes happen. No doubt. No doubt. Okay. But now it's not the Somalis in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's also the Somalis in Lewiston and Portland, Maine. Then all of a sudden, Dr. Mehmet Oz, a Turkish guy, by the way. That's important to this next segment. He's Turkish. That's the reason they sent him to do this one. They needed to pick on another group because they had another Epstein file delay and everybody was calling them out. So what happened last week? They sent Dr. Oz to Los Angeles, to Hollywood. East Hollywood, I guess, is like Little Armenia. And he started showing pictures of Armenian businesses and going, look, we found all the crime, all the government fraud. It's the Armenians who are doing it. Okay, well, it was very purposeful. It was a thumb in the eye to the Armenian community. And I feel bad for everybody in the Armenian community except for Anna Kasparian, because she's a loser. They sent a Turk, the Turk Armenian genocide. That's a thing. Turks still claim they didn't commit a genocide against the Armenian. All historical evidence shows they did. Okay. So this nationalist regime who loves to hate the other, it's part of the deconstruction. There's always got to be the other that's the core of the problem. It's never them. Even when they're on a list of names and a bunch of files containing millions of documents and photos, some of it with naked teenage girls and adult men being pictured with topless teenage girls, degenerates, rapists, and pedophiles. We're not supposed to remember any of that. We're supposed to remember that the Armenians now are the criminals. First, it was the Haitians. Then it was the Somalis here and here. Now it's on the West Coast, it's the Armenians. Again, this is all intentional. They know what they're doing. Nobody else was going to go to LA to announce that the Armenians were committing all the crime. But Turkish dude, Dr. Oz. Why? Because they knew that would piss off the Armenians. All intentional, all with a forethought. Getting it? Are you getting the con yet, America? I've asked that question a couple hundred times in the last 3 years. Are you getting the fucking con yet? They brought in Doge. We had more outlays in a quarter in 2025 than we've had since the Great Recession. Doge was not a win. It was actually cost us more money than we started. Okay. What they got was all your data so they could use it against you later on. Again, they knew this, they knew what they were doing, and they did it with a forethought. They're not going to save a fucking dime. Because if they don't have things to bitch about, they don't have a platform. I mean, they don't have any policies. That's getting pretty obvious. They have no policy. They just have a platform of grievance. So we need the debt to be here so we have something to bitch about. So we can say, as we've been saying since Ronald fucking Reagan, the answer to the debt is giving wealthy people another tax break. And when we put $1 trillion more down in debt, the answer is going to be give wealthy people more of a tax break. Because it's the same fucking answer for 40 years. So is the deconstruction happening? Yes, full out. You should be concerned, be a little bit anxiety. Yeah, All that's justified. Like I wrote the other day in the essay, there's a reason why ICE is doing what it's doing. They're deconstructing American law enforcement. Very, very purposely so. They want it replaced with a unanswerable Stasi force like you saw in East Germany back in the Cold War. A secret police force that could do anything to anybody wherever they wanted to, whenever they wanted to. And there's none of those pesky judges to tell them no. But the thing you got to get around your head today, and again, communicate this, not just share or repost this, but in your own personal conversations. Make sure people understand very clearly why this is happening. Okay. They all say, oh, we should run the American government like a business. Well, they just proven what that business is. It's called a mafia. Run the government like a business if the business was a prison gang. And if you've got any MAGA addled morons in your life, I'm sorry if you do. Nobody in my circle of friends, nobody in my family. I mean, I have plenty of mixes of people around, including conservatives, but nobody buys this horseshit nationalism, Goomba gangster bullshit. The bad knockoff of Orban and Farage that Bannon designed for Dear Leader. That nobody in my life is dealing with that. But if you've got one, break it down for them. Break it down for them. If you really do think natural gas prices are the fault of the state of New Jersey because a Democrat happens to be governor right now, not only you are misinformed, you're a lemming being marched to the cliff. The big lemming is going to be standing there waving you past him while you jump. You fucking idiot. What was this 50-year mortgage about? Deconstructing homeownership for the middle class, because half of the people who qualify for a 30-year loan now would never qualify for a 50-year loan, especially at these prices. Then he's got the gall 2 weeks later to come back and say, I'm not trying to lower anybody's health care. What, as you deconstruct the fucking home mortgage system while you fucking disavow insurance and the insurance model itself? You disavow the insurance model across all factors of insurance and then tell us like, oh, we're not wishing anybody harm. You lying fucks, that's exactly what you're doing. You're putting us in harm's way so you can laugh in our face and then take our shit. The farmer goes bankrupt, private equity owns the land, owns the farm. Get it? The beef cattleman goes out of business. I guarantee you it's going to be private equity or some fucking shell company owned by some wealthy cabinet member, or maybe one of the Walton family with a shell company who is now going to be in control of that ranch. But it's not just the farms or the ranches. I'm talking they want fucking everything. They want every hair salon, auto repair shop, veterinary office, fucking nail salon, whatever. They want it all. They want you to have nothing. That's why they're deconstructing America. Can you explain to me why they're tearing the VA the Veterans Administration for the retirees and especially the wounded retirees, um, the family health care system for the military, and the military hospital system all don't seem to be any sort of priority for this administration. Why? Because it's not lethality, bro. Let's dump the money off into another project that's connected to a campaign donor that has a feedback loop to dear leader himself. Because we're getting to the point now that dear leader's actions, any other time in American history, wouldn't have just resulted in impeachment. Okay, let's take what was it? The who are they calling him now? The spy sheik. What is he from the UAE, the United Arab Emirates? He bought a 49% stake in Trump's fucking Bitcoin and media crap days before he was sworn in and got elected. Then all of a sudden, all these deals, and they're getting advanced AI chips, and they're getting that, and they're getting this. Okay, we're not talking impeachment and a trial. We're talking an impeachment, a trial, and fucking paths to glory. Would you like a blindfold and a cigarette during your execution with the firing squad? That sort of shit we're dealing with. Here's the problem with what they're doing. We're malinvested, way over malinvested in AI. AI is a thing. Like I told you before, AI and ML and NLP, those are things I work with. They're a thing. Are they the thing that they're trying to sell at multiple trillions of dollars? No, not yet. Not even close. We're malinvested in AI. We're overinvested in our military budget. We're underinvested in our infrastructure by at least a couple of $1 trillion, by the way. Why? Because they had no, when they argue against building a road or building a highway or fixing a train track or upgrading a seaport, they're not about growth. They're not about futures in our society and our economy. The upper echelon of America is this current generation of upper echelon wealth in America is probably the worst group of people we've had, far worse than the robber barons, probably far worse than the Confederates. Because at least the Confederates told you what they wanted. Today's assholes go on talk shows and podcasts or A blocks on broadcast cable TV news and go, "Oh, I'm doing it out of my love for Jesus Christ." Oh, fuck you. Everything they're doing is to knock the country down another peg. They want to complain about spending in the government, and all they've done since Trump's been in office is spend. Now, $13 trillion, a third of our entire debt was spent in 5 years. Remember, the debt was only a couple of trillion under Carter. We're at $37 trillion in debt now. Almost 13 trillion of it is just Donald Trump. And he claims he's Mr. No War, which we know he isn't. But so if we're disengaging, if the defensive strategy report saying there's no threat in the world and we're all going to consolidate, and his answer is spend more money than we've ever spent in the entirety of the history of the world, on ICE, on the military, on Space Force, on this, on that. They're not going to stop because either two things happen for that, and both of them's a win for them. Okay, it's a loss both times for the middle class. If you don't have $100 million in the bank, you're not on the winning side of this equation. I mean, 100 million in tangible assets. Because the only thing happens here. The scheme works without killing the dollar. They inflate everything, but they're so high over the economy, they get more political power, more economic power, because nobody can afford anything. Nothing that we can buy into means anything anymore. We can no longer build wealth. Only they can build wealth. And I think that's much less likely than the second option, which is the US dollar collapses. Housing collapses. Insurance starts to fail. A global depression that happens again like it happened 100 plus years ago. Like our only options right now is the economy fails for 98% of the country, or the dollar dies and we run the entire global economy into the ground. But they're eating the cats and the dogs. See, this is a Armenian bakery. I found all the crime. You see what we're up against and what they're focused on? They're taking 5-year-olds hostage and naming them enemies of the state while they're driving not just the economy, but the dollar itself into the fucking dirt. Why do you think gold's so high? Silver's so high. Platinum. Haven't looked at rubidium, but I bet that's sky high too. Anything heavier than gold is an industrial metal we use for a lot of different purposes. It's always going to have value. But the gold price increase and the silver stacking price increases. No, I'm a silver stacker. I'm quite happy. I've more than double, 2.5-fold increased my investment in a year on 300 ounces of silver. Okay, but I know that's not healthy. I know a run up like that is a bubble. Okay, and every time we've bubbled something up, whether it's been stocks in the tech boom that became the tech bubble, whether it was the housing that completely collapsed and blew up in our face, anytime we create a bubble, it blows up. And then we bail out the wealthiest people for what they designed. And in the mortgage crisis, what they criminally profited from. We gave them money because they committed millions of crimes. And I don't know if it was too big to fail or simply too many crimes to prosecute. Little column A, little column B. But understand that the deconstruction is real. It's happening. It's the goal. And if they get their way, there will not be a single rural hospital in America. There will be no playgrounds. There'll be no city parks. There'll be no national parks. There'll be no state seashores. There will just be ownership by a handful of people on top. And we'll return to we'll leave corporate socialism. We'll miss accelerationism because all the accelerationists are true fucking morons. Curtis, Thiel, Musk, they're all fucking idiots. And we're going to end up in a corporate neo-feudalism system. Feudalism with a corporate license. Feudalism with a shell company. And the dukes and the lords that own the shell companies will make all the rules. Democracy will die. There's nothing to protect democracy anymore. They just laid off everybody at the fucking Washington Post. Catherine Graham has to be rolling over right now. I mean, three of the biggest papers in the country are now propaganda rags for a nationalist regime and a corporate socialist oligarchy who wants neo-feudalism, corporatism as their future. And again, leaving us with nothing. Nothing. Because, you could have let things unwind after the housing mess and let housing prices fall and let the price adjustment be the bailout in essence, but they weren't having that. You were going to bail out their companies, their asset funds, their fixed assets and wealth were protected. People were abandoned. Families were abandoned. The elderly were abandoned. Sick children were abandoned. Refugees were abandoned. Why? Because we had to prop up asset prices. Now they have no way out of the scheme they built. A scheme that's been compounding. It didn't start, you know, you have to go way back. It started when Nixon just up and left the modified gold agreement, the Bretton Woods agreement, without it even telling anybody. Oh, we're all Keynesians now. Okay, now you have no control over your currency. It's just an inflation city from here on out. That's exactly what's been happening for a half a century now. Every time we have a glitch, we go from inflation to really, really bad inflation. Okay. Then it was deregulating the banks. Then it was bailing out the junk bond kings. Then it was bailing out the goddamn banks with the collaborative debt obligations. Instead of having mortgage run like a serious investment, we turned that shit into a casino they can't even track. And this is the funniest thing. They wanted to turn mortgages into a casino, but trust me when I tell you, because I have friends who work in security and IT in Vegas. They don't miss a fucking dollar. Holiday weekend, Super Bowl weekend's coming up, right? There ain't a casino that's going to be missing a single dollar out of any fucking till. But we run the government with the largest spending of largest expenditures that are unauditable. That would be the Department of Defense. And what is the answer to the Department of Defense, or now ICE? Throw more money at it. Why? Because that takes money out of you. That takes money away from your kids. That takes money away from your community. You lose. That's the whole point. It's a zero-sum game of deconstruction. And they're laughing at you right now. Because it's only going to come out two ways now. One, they win, and the other, we all lose, including them. So pay attention. Because if we don't, we should have bailed the mortgage bankers. Yes, there's only two countries that got the mortgage crisis correct. That was Vietnam and Iceland. Iceland threw a bunch of bankers in prison. Vietnam shot a few. I think Vietnam should get a slow clap. Yes, we should have jailed them for the millions of felonies they committed. Yes, absolutely. Okay. There is a deconstruction. It's real. It's purposeful. It has a forethought, and you're the mark. Now, do you understand how important the midterms are? Got to get out there. Got to get people out of this I don't pay attention to politics bullshit. Okay, slave. If you're not going to pay attention, then why don't you hook up that leash to your nose ring right now? You're ripe. You're ripe for the taking because they're counting on people to get so stressed out that they'll stop paying attention so they can just do whatever they want to do and whatever happens, happens. But either scenario we're looking at now, again, you're going to lose. I'm going to lose. But it is preventable. And why would anybody on earth work a microsecond to help protect any of these billionaire fucks? Okay. Because the thing that disgusts me about the emails is they all knew he sat in Palm County jail for child molestation, and he was still their best friend. Forget all the Russian compromat bullshit, the financial trades, the business secrets, blah, 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 blah. I don't give a fuck. Okay. 99% of those people in those emails were looking for a relationship with a known convicted pedophile. The fun one that didn't was Finkelstein. When he was invited to a party, he said both Dershowitz and Epstein should be slowly strangled to death. George Carlin, it's a big club and you're not in it. Yes. Yes. There's a couple of bits I've been citing of George Carlin, Bristol, that one and soft language. Remember how we started to change all the definitions of words? Now we have all this soft language. You see it all the time on social media. You can't say suicide. You have to say unalive. You can't say domestic abuse. You have to say spousal harm. Okay. Yeah. Carlin was prescient in a lot of different ways, including in entertainment itself. Remember, him and Flip Wilson started doing the news as a joke, the weekend news. Lauren Michaels ripped that off for Saturday Night Live. That started with Carlin and Flip Wilson, like years before, like 5, 6, 7 years before SNL even started. Yeah, but think about the deconstruction. Think about what it's going to do to this country, what it's going to do to our kids and our grandkids. Because if you don't have a trust fund where you get to hand an incredible amount of money to your children, they do not have much of a shot in this economy moving forward. Not with what they're doing now. The cart's coming off the wheels are coming off the economic cart here. It's bad. It's bad. Commodities shouldn't be being this volatile. Okay. We should have more volatility in the fear indexes, VIX and MOVE, but we're not. Which again makes me think, wow, we're in a terribly rigged system right now. All the companies are ending up in all the right hands. Warner Brothers, Paramount, and TikTok all ends up in the Ellisons' hands, and Ellisons are the major contributor to Donald Trump campaign, Donald Trump ballroom, Donald Trump inauguration, Donald Trump, the criminal enterprise. That's an excellent example of the deconstruction's output right now. Okay, so start talking it up. You're getting set up to fail. No amount of left-right orthodoxy is going to save us. We have to stand up as individuals and tell people what the fuck we want moving forward. This ain't it. One topic tonight. That's it. It's the deconstruction. And until next time, please think about it, talk about it, spread the word, inform your friends, family, neighbors, and countrymen. Whoever's in your orbit, your social group, tell them the clock is ticking. Either we get new governance in the midterms as a result of these midterms. We don't allow Trump and his minions like Tulsi Gabbard, that Russian fucking whore. She's a sellout. I got suspicious of her years ago. last, like, 2 years, I literally think she is a compromised person that the CIA or the FBI counterintelligence should be focusing on, but they won't given who's running those organizations right now. But think about it, talk about it. Don't allow people to say, "I don't get involved in politics." Well, you're gonna be involved being a slave. Here's your 2 choices: get involved in politics and start voting and start having a conscience, start working together as a society, or be a slave. Because again, if you don't have $100 million in your portfolio after this deconstruction gets through, you're only going to have one option. That's the slave option. So please think about it.